Awesome. Welcome, Right Hive. Everybody out there who is really looking into building games, building books, and building stories, because we're here with a really awesome way of doing it. We're going to talk about building a one-shot for Dungeons and Dragons. It really can be any TTRPG, absolutely, with Rachanee Lumayno, author of the Kingdom Legacy series. Her 7-book series is about to be finished, so catch up on all of them, starting with Heir of Amber and Fire as soon as possible, so you're ready for the last one. Welcome, Rachanee.
Well, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. As you said, I'm Rachanee Lumayno. I'm an author and a video game writer. So I'm also a massive gamer, which I'm assuming you must be too, because you're here in this class. So we're going to talk about creating a TTRPG one-shot. It's actually a lot easier than you think. So you will need, this is like our Wes Anderson moment here, you will need manuals. All right. These are
Oh,
helpful.
right in front of you, so because the screen is is blocking
Oh,
out the title. There you go. I can see it.
you will need manuals. So like this is your Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master Guide. There is a player's handbook. There is a monster manual. These are your basics. And if you're thinking of other systems, there's Pathfinder, Starfinder. They have their own manuals and their own bestiaries. So there's a bunch of these. And they're really thick. Look at that. So let me get
And
this.
let me say as well, a lot of that material available online for anybody who's dipping their toe into it, just learning as they go. You don't have to commit to buying the book
Yeah,
immediately, but it supports the creators, absolutely.
for sure. You can also find this information on D&D Beyond or on Paizo.com. Paizo is Pathfinder. Paizo's, I think, their basic stuff is online, but more of the like monster manuals and stuff are hidden behind paywalls, just FYI. You will also need the OGL, the open game license, but we will talk about this later, so put a pin in that one. And it,
If you're going to publish, this is correct.
yes, but we'll get into
Yes.
that at the very end. And it helps if you've played the game both as a player and a dungeon master, minimum as a player, so you have an idea of how the game works, because that is really important. So, all right. And I understand you're writing one too, so you're going to help guide.
Yes. I was asked to write a little one shot for someone. We're going to use D&D. In this case, it's a group of 3, so I know how many people, and that's going to help me design it in terms of how tough the bad guys are and stuff like that. And I asked her for 3 words, and that should help me, kind of put it together. My 3 words that I was given were glitter, waffles, and beach. We'll see where that leads.
Oh, wow. I can't wait to see what this one shot's gonna. Yes, by the end of this, we have to see what glitter and beach and what was the other one?
Waffles.
Waffles, how this all ties in together. You
I
will be
used to have a
so
cat
shocked.
named Waffles, so it might be a giant cat. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The big bad is a cat named Waffles. I love it. So the good thing about writing a module is you actually don't need to write as much as you think you do. Because the number one thing about TTRPG is it is collaborative storytelling. So you're just going to give them a little bit of info to get started, but it's the players and the game master who are going to fill in the blanks. So you just need to get them started. So first, we need stakes. Okay, what's the problem the players need to solve? Like, did a treasure get stolen? Did someone go missing? Is there an army coming and they'll be here in 5 days and the players need to deal with it somehow? Okay, you want to think about locations in your world. All right, kind of think of like those movies that are contained in one area. It's the same thing. Consider keeping it to 1 or 2 locations. So in your one shot, consider keeping it to 1 or 2 locations. So for example, maybe all your action happens in one castle, one town, one kingdom, maybe even one room, like it's an escape room, right? Maybe your players need to escape before a certain amount of time. That one location will cut down on the time it takes for people to play through the game. So a one shot is typically about 3 to 5 hours in play, but if you make one location really rich, then sky's the limit. So for example, in my one shot, you're in the kingdom of Kalia. I give them the castle, a magic shop, and a back tunnel. But a capital city also allows the game masters to create more if they want, like a tavern, other stores, houses, things like that. So for your backstory, consider those classic questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Where are the players? What is the problem? Why are these players the only one for the job? Who's the quest giver? when is the time period everyone is in, and also when is the deadline to complete this quest? How is the quest giver or any other NPCs helping or hindering the players in their quest? And as a bonus, is there anything in the world that could help or hinder the players? For example, maybe everyone in the town really distrusts outsiders and newcomers. Anything you put in this one shot, your game master can take it out or add to it, so you don't really need to go too in depth. So now, let's take some time and answer those questions. Remember, your who, what, where, when, how, and why. Go for it. Let's see what you come up with.
And let's say 5 minutes or so. We'll give people a little break right here. And I will be right back with you guys. Yeah, in 5 minutes. Who, what, when, where, why.
And how.
Bonus as well. Oh, sorry, please.
And how.
Yes, and how. Bonus as well, kind of things. Only ones for the job. Who is the quest giver? And possibly obstacles.
Like my cat.
Giant
Okay.
cat is a good obstacle, yeah.
Oh my gosh, she just has to be on the screen. All right, so we've got our questions somewhat answered. So the next thing is you've got your questions. Now, when you start to write, in fact, this would be a really good time to share screen. Let me get my,
Let
can we see?
me throw this out there as well. My who, what, when, where, why kind of things. I loved the format of that, in just a few minutes, like really quick. So this is a party of temps, and they all were hoping to get jobs, and they haven't been given any yet. I They are just seriously desperate for food, like absolutely bottom level. Like, oh my gosh, I haven't been able to feed myself. It's after a long night, wandering a city, where they really wish they're hungry, they're tired, and a wild magic wizard comes by who's disheveled and stuff like that, and is looking for people at the last minute, and came to this temp agency. And he portals them into a new land.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And there's so many like layers to it that they can add. That's
Yeah,
great.
what are the characters going to respond to with, like that role playing right at the beginning of like, you're tired, it's been a long night, you haven't been able to sleep, you don't have anywhere to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. And the nice thing about that is, so you have your setup, and if you look at, I don't know if you can see my screen now.
Yep, it's
Um,
up. Yeah.
okay, so yeah, so you have your setup, like what you do. I have my setup as well. Just FYI, this is actually based off my book series, so I kind of refer people back to the books a little bit. But you'll notice here, so like here, for example, this would be the backstory stuff for your game master. I mean, they can also read it to the players, but this is the stuff that the game master would be reading and be like, okay, I'm getting a feel for the world. But you also want to consider,
That's kind of improv stuff, versus where you have it written where it's like with white background, and that's where you're writing more like a novel. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's just kind of for them, and they can read it if they want to the players, but it's more for them. But you also want to consider, I'm having way too much fun with this annotation tool. See this part here, you'll see these in one shots, like these little Um, in the video game world, we call it flavor text. I think here they would call it like pop-ups or something. I'm not really sure what it's called in author world. But see how like it's set apart, or see these white parts here. I'm not going to try to annotate, but you can see them. The little like white cards that um pop off the page,
Oh yeah.
like the cool gray stone of the Callian Palace or the walls of the Great Hall.
Mhm.
That would be what I consider flavor text. Right down here, the shop is a bright and colorful one-story red brick building. That's stuff that your game master can read aloud to kind of help with the world building. So consider that kind of thing as well.
And if you're just sketching right now, it's the kind of thing where you can say, okay, here is where I want flavor text. Like, don't write it right now, but just decide these are the spots where I want it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say actually, if you're already starting to write all that backstory and all that for the one shot, it's a great time to see the descriptive places that are flavor text that you can pull out. So if you look at your questions and if you've started writing descriptions, this would be a great time to either pull out those sections or to figure out what you can describe just briefly, one or two sentences, flavor text based off of the questions you've already answered, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So go to it.
Yay! So that's a good place. I those questions prompt some flavor text. You can describe why they're the only ones for the job. You can describe the quest giver very much and the situation that leads to them. Not really obstacles yet, though, right? We're not getting into plot. We're just doing the kind of setting and setting up, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mhm. Thank you guys, and I hope that was some good time writing a little bit of flavor text, getting your who, what, when, where, why written, my just in sketchy form. You can go back and revise it always later. Feel free to toss it into the Discord chat if you want to share it with others, and any questions as we go through with this as well, writing your one shot that you can ask Rachanee. Absolutely.
Definitely. Yes. Thank you for telling them that. So we were talking a little bit about conflict before the break. And of course, if you've set it up in the beginning with the quest giver, we already know what the conflict is. So now it's a matter of the players going and solving that problem. Now, this is where mechanics comes into play. And if you've never played the game, stop here, go play the game of the module that you want to write for, because you need to know how the mechanics work. And that is the most important thing with one of these campaigns.
What would you
So,
say to someone who has maybe like watched some Dimension 20 or one of those other play alongs, like is
yes
that an
and
adequate
no.
primer or
Yes and no. You can watch them, but here's the thing. First of all, there's nothing like playing the game and learning how it works in real time. The other thing is, and I hate to say this, this is me pulling back the curtain from my acting world. A lot of the D&D play games are a bit scripted. And there's nothing like being in a game where it's all improv and the DM's going, "Oh my gosh, they were supposed to fight the big bad and why are they shopping for 5 hours?" There's
yes.
nothing like that to understand the real nuances of the game. So watching things like Critical Role and Dimension 20 and all that are great, but just be aware that there's going to be those are a little bit scripted, they're a little bit guided, they have to fit into a format. It's a hands-on thing. It's a really the best way to learn these are hands-on. Yeah, I just can't stress that enough.
Okay.
Oh, that would be my cat. All right. So, mechanics. Let's talk about how many people are going to be at this game. What level are they going to be playing at? All right. So, let's say you want to write a one shot for like 3 to 6 players at a level 3. A game of 2 adventurers is going to look very different from a table of 5 or 6, right? So let's say you throw something with a challenge rating of 6 at 2 players. That might be a tough fight, but if it's a group of 5, they'll easily take that monster down. So, as you're writing the conflict part and you're throwing them into encounters, either this is not necessarily the big bad boss yet, but just encounters along the way, you have to be mindful that whatever you pick can be scaled up or down based on how many players are in this campaign. And you're not going to know, right? Unless you're always running this one shot, you're not going to know how many people are at the table. Um,
I'll throw
yes.
this out there as well. The way that you say the level, what level you start at. For people unfamiliar with it, if you're starting a long campaign, you'll start at level 1. But oftentimes with a one shot, you'll design a character that is, as you said, at level 3. I think that's kind of industry standard, but other people will decide, or you can decide to do it at 5, to do it at 10. I don't know about doing it at 15, but like you can change that depending on what kind of one shot you want to make, as well as you're talking about scaling up and scaling down monsters or encounters to fit them. Let me ask you for a little thing about monster levels. But first, let me introduce the term nerfed and just say that that means when you like bring things down. If you nerf something, that means just let's just make it easy enough for who's playing the game. Make sure they don't all die right at the beginning. So,
Mhm.
do you have any thoughts on monster levels?
So a lot of monsters, if you don't have a monster manual, you can find these online, D&D Beyond. Shard Tabletop also has a lot of really great resources. Be advised that what you'll find on those sites is the basic stuff. So if you're trying to unlock certain classes, for example, anything in Tasha's Cauldron, you have to buy that. So certain books are not um, freely accessible. But for the most part, you can get like 2/3 of the monsters and the classes and the races all for free. So we're looking at a ghost. I've got this on D&D Beyond. If you're looking at this from a writer's or DM's perspective, the things you want to look at are right here. Oh, wait. Annotation right here. The challenge rating. Okay, it says CR4. So other creatures, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I think they're like pixies or something. They're like zero point 0.5 challenge rating. But if you throw 20 of them, that's a
A
lot.
lot of animals are halves as well. You'll run into fractions, yeah.
Yep. Um, Now, it's not necessarily going to matter because this is a static campaign, but if you ever wanted to give them a monster and modify it, you'd be modifying up here, like their most likely their health points, their HP right here. But really, what you're looking for is the challenge rating. And just be mindful and you can most DMs are often experienced enough anyway to know, okay, you gave me two ghosts and I have a group of six people. Maybe I can add in two or more. But I wouldn't throw in, say, a dragon that has a challenge rating of 20, against people who are level three.
So let's do the math here. So two ghosts, you say challenge rating of 4, and then
Mhm.
you have a party, let's say of 4 people. If
Okay.
they're all at level 3, are you adding up those numbers? 3, 6, 9, 12
Mhm.
versus ghosts, and if each one of them is 4, 4, 8, 12, that's an encounter they should be able to handle.
I would honestly probably add in one more ghost. I mean, I guess the
Make it
question
tough.
too, yeah, the question too is where in your game, like if it's early in the game, you probably don't want them to die right away. So maybe, yeah, they're only seeing, two or three ghosts, maybe balance out that challenge rating against the number of,
Like make
the
it
number
less
left.
than the
Or,
party, make it less than the
um,
party early, and then bring that up to even with the party, and then maybe even above. It's
yeah,
fine to be above,
yep.
but nerf those early ones.
For sure. And I personally feel when you're writing things in like monsters, that's also game master discretion. I would hope that, most game masters would be like, oh, there's only one ghost, but I have five people at level 3. Maybe I'll add in a few more. So you do allow them that freedom as well. And how to find the monsters. I think we talked about that. D&D Beyond, Paizo's Bestiary, Shard Tabletop is one of my favorites. Shard Tabletop is also one of my favorites just for live play. I love their map system. Really great stuff. And there are also independent creators out there who have their own worlds and systems, and so you can piggyback off them with permission. Just FYI. And I've also seen Reddit has been one of my favorite resources. Like the internet, I don't know how people did this before the internet. Google is your friend. But Reddit, I've seen some really great monsters on there as well. Those might be somewhat copyrighted. I don't know. You'd have to check with whoever posts them. But even just for personal games, I mean, oh my gosh, the things people come up with.
It's like an untested recipe. Like,
Yeah.
if you're reading it in the D&D, monster manual, this recipe has been made 1,000 times. It is absolutely tested. It'll be great. Absolutely. You move on to the homebrew kind of ones that people do and publish themselves. Maybe it's been played like 5 times or so. They've figured out most of the mechanics. You're on Reddit. A guy made a recipe for, let's say, a cocktail that involves a coconut milk and a Campari, and you're like, does it taste good? Let's find out.
We'll find out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the other thing too is as you're writing your one shot, keep in mind combat can take a while in a game, in a regular game. So you might not, if you're trying to keep it between 3 to 5 hours, you might not want to have that many encounters. It really just kind of depends on the story overall. Obviously, if it's a big battle, epic battle scene, you're going to have a lot of battles. But if they're like, treasure hunting or, recovering a kidnapped prince or something, maybe one or two encounters, keep them small until the big bad. Um,
And puzzles versus combat.
Puzzles and combat, yes, also. I mean, it kind of, as far as puzzles go, I mean, I'm not a big fan of scripting everything out, to be honest, because, and it's going to sound weird and contradictory with my next point, to be fair, but I think you could hint at a few puzzles that they could use, but make sure they're relevant to the story as well. I'm a big believer in logic, so any encounter they have, any puzzles they encounter, any NPCs, everything has to make logical sense.
Cool,
to the
cool.
story. Don't throw a puzzle in just because you're like, well, it's been 3 pages and they need a puzzle. It's not like that, for sure. But I think now would be a great time for everyone to go on D&D Beyond or Shard and find some monsters to populate your world. I believe on D&D Beyond, I don't know if you can search it by challenge rating. I know in the books you can. Let me see here. Oh, you know what? Yeah, in D&D Beyond, they do have a list, monsters by challenge rating. You can also go monsters by terrain, monsters by location, things like that. And fun hint, you don't need to keep, like it might say, oh, this monster is only good in swamps, like a jungle plant beast. Well, what if you put them in the forest? What if you put them in a mountain path? Like you don't have to keep them in their terrain. So that's also something fun to think about. So, all
The
right.
unexpected. So we'll
Exactly.
take 5 minutes right here, look up some monsters, make some notes, compare that to what we want to build as far as a challenge rating of our people, and also leave some room in there. Is this 2 to 5 wolves? Depending on how many people are in the party. All right. And I do hope you guys found some good monsters, some good encounters, maybe got some ideas using your location as well as what goal you're trying to get to and put some obstacles in their way.
I would
Absolutely.
love to know what is the favorite monster that you guys found. Put it in the Discord. I want to see like all the monsters everybody found.
I'm gonna throw mine out there. I wrote down Rust Monster. I definitely want to throw some of them out there.
Can you fight it with glitter?
Ooh, good call. Rust Monsters v Glitter. Or do the Rust Monsters change all of everybody's armor into just a pile of glitter?
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Actually, I understand glitter bombs are pretty bad, so I feel like a glitter bomb would be an amazing weapon.
Yes. Okay, Glitter Bombs versus Rust Monster. That needs to be, the take this, it's dangerous where you're going. Glitter
And
Bombs.
don't press the button until you're ready. Oh my gosh, I could just imagine a party member being like, "What's this?" And that actually brings us to a very important point. So this is probably going to be the biggest challenge you have as a writer writing a campaign. If you've ever game mastered, you'll know this to be true. Assume your players will try to break the game. It is just inevitable. And this is why when I homebrew, I've stopped scripting too far in advance while I game master because I know my players are going to do something completely left field and I'm going to have to pivot. Like instead of fighting the big bad, they're going to go shopping for 5 hours and there's nothing I can do about it. So the interesting thing, challenge about writing a module is you're writing this for somebody else who's going to be game mastering. Therefore, they're not going to know everything in your head for all the contingencies. And there's nothing more frustrating. Now I'm pivoting and putting my game master hat on. There's nothing more frustrating than to have a module and your players go zig and you're like, I don't know how to zag because the module doesn't tell me. Now, most game masters will figure out how to zag, but it can help if you can kind of come up with some contingencies. I understand you're not going to be able to come up with every contingency out there because that might be a lot, but you can come up with a few what if situations to help a poor GM out. So,
It's like if you're bowling and you need the bumpers. Let's give them
mhm,
some bumpers so it doesn't go in the
exactly.
gutter.
Exactly, exactly. So we'll take as an example in my module, Queen Jenica is the quest giver. She's there at the beginning of the one shot with her husband King Ban and her advisor Taryn. And you assume that they're going to accept the quest, right? 99% of players will be like, yes, we will, go and explore this mysterious magic shop. But what happens if the player says no? What if the player decides to fight them for the reward instead of having to do the quest, right? Those are very real things. And trust me, I've had players do that as I playtest. So a lot for those possibilities. And that's what I did in my one shot. I said, okay, she says, okay, here's your reward if you go do it. And if the player says, no, I don't want to, she goes, well, let me sweeten the deal. Here, I'll offer you more money. And if they say no and they pull out their sword, she fights back. So I tried to think of other possibilities that could happen within the game that I could allot for without being present, if that makes
And
sense.
as you said, a playtest is a good way to find where
Definitely.
these issues are.
Yeah. I would suggest playtesting with at least 2 to 3 different groups. Playtest it yourself, playtest it with you as the game master running the game. When I did my one shot, everyone was neutral good, and then I played with a bunch of chaos demons. And they were like ripping apart the castle, and they were like, we're only in it for the money. And like somehow we got through it, but it worked. And I knew it worked because they were trying to rip apart the game. I mean, things like what if your players meet the big bad and they decide to negotiate? What if they try to get an NPC to kill it? What if they try to sneak away? Right? So, what are the contingencies that could happen outside of the normal expected events? So, take a look at your general outline, going back to your questions, and think about scenarios that could offshoot from that. Like going back to your the waffles and the glitter and all that. What happens if they decide to befriend the rust monster? What happens if they try to, trick him instead of fight him? What happens if they decide to just walk away from the combat? Right? Those are all real possibilities within that one framework. And you don't have to write paragraphs, just like one little sentence. If this, then this. But trust me, Any future game masters will be so happy if you come up with those contingency plans.
So I'll throw one out there just as an example. Like the characters I'm thinking, they get recruited, they get portaled over to a place, and it is a beautiful grassland. Like the background from the windows cover, a screensaver back in the day. But there's all these holes in the ground, and that's where they have to go, and that's where the adventure is. But in the meantime, if they stay out too long, there are giant hands that come down and start grabbing things. And it wouldn't be the characters first, but like grab a cow that's out there, grab a tree and just tear it out of the ground, and just give them that fear to like you probably should go underneath, and before you get grabbed.
Yeah, but what happens if they don't? What
Hmm.
happens if they aid the mysterious hands instead and like offer up the cows, right? I mean, or if they decide to fight, or if they go,
Hmm.
there's a lot of different possibilities. We're not saying Crazy Town. They don't like suddenly decide to have a concert, but they could if they really wanted to. It's very possible. I guarantee you, any player is going to try to break your module. It's just
Nice.
inevitable. So go ahead, take a look at your list, take a look at your flavor text, figure out some contingencies based off of those questions. What do you think? Like 15? I feel
Yeah, that sounds good.
like
15 minutes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Let's do 15. We'll see you back in 15. love to see what everybody came up with. What was the original scenario, and then what were your offshoot contingencies? I'd love to see what you put. Put it in the Discord. And while we're looking at that, this is the final thing, and this is probably actually the most important thing, especially if you're thinking about this for public consumption. Get your hands on the OGL, which is the Open Game License. Now, every TTRPG has one. Dungeons and Dragons has one. You can find it on their website. Paizo has one for Pathfinder. And it's really important because certain things are copyrighted to D&D, and you can't use them in your module without permission and or compensation to the parent company. For example, Dungeon Master is a D&D term. You can't use that. I found that out because I was live streaming. Um, Certain monsters, I believe Mind Flayer is theirs, and one of the bears, either Owl Bear or Bugbear, maybe both of the bears are theirs for sure. So certain monsters, certain classes, certain races, certain terms you cannot use without compensation. And it's really important, especially with Dungeons and Dragons. Paizo's been pretty steady from what I understand, and they're actually an offshoot of Dungeons and Dragons. So, I mean, there's that. But D&D, their license stayed static for 30 years. And then during the pandemic, especially because of how popular a lot of the live play shows have become, they started finagling with their OGL and it caused a bit of an uproar. So they've changed it back, changed it again. Whatever you publish currently is going to be under the current OGL. So you can't be like, oh, I'm publishing under 1.0. You have to publish under whatever the current thing is. And it does list, are you live streaming? Are you selling it? Are you putting, like, if you're selling it on Drive-Thru RPG or even giving it away for free, basically, whatever you're doing that's not just friends or family for private use, you need to look at those terms because you don't want to get in trouble later on. And that would be actually a big reason why a lot of like Critical Role and stuff have created their own campaigns and their own play systems because they didn't want to deal with that OGL. So if you are doing a D&D one shot and you're doing it for public consumption, get the OGL. It's very important.
Let's state this as a Shades of Grey, 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing, which in the first place started off as Twilight fan fiction.
Yes.
And as they said, they filed off the serial numbers. You change the names, maybe you change the scenario just a little bit. I if you are doing this for just playing with people, don't worry about any of this OGL. You don't need to do that if you're just sharing it with people in your life. As you said, live streaming it, publishing it, definitely look into this stuff before doing that. But as well, if you look at the OGL, it doesn't work for you. There are ways to file off the serial numbers. Make sure that you're not hitting on those things that are very specific to copyrights that other people hold. And because fantasy is a big world, fantasy and sci-fi is a massive world. And just with little bits and changes, you can get away from being put in a litigious situation, let's say. I
Yes.
love the point, Rashani, about Air of Amber and Fire. And you used a little bit gameplay to build your novels.
So actually, Air of Amber and Fire, the main character Jenica, was based on a character I was supposed to play in a D&D campaign, and then the pandemic happened, so the game never happened. But I wrote the story because I'm like, I like this character. I like where I was supposed to take her. So that's how that book came about. And then while I was promoting the first book, my friend was like, you know what? Because I didn't have a reader magnet at the time. He's like, why don't you write a campaign based off of the book? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. So the campaign is actually like 1.5 before book two, basically. And
Yes.
it's just a fun way if you're into that sort of thing to kind of get to know the characters, you know, and spend some time in their world.
And to give potential readers kind of a bonus or like a learn more kind of thing to get them more involved in your world. That's great. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned earlier, book seven is coming out. Do you want to talk about that? And just what the title is, when the release date is?
Sure, yeah. So all seven books, they're standalone set in the same world. So book seven is kind of the culmination of everything that's happened before. A lot of characters come back from previous books. Basically, it's like, you know, kind of end of the world cataclysmic stuff. Of course, it's book seven. So in that story, Odessa's a party girl who finds herself tasked to save the world when the gods who were imprisoned under her watch all escape. That's coming out mid-June on June 17, and the entire series will be complete. And I'm working on a new series right now, a bunch of dark gothic fairy tale retellings.
Yay. Thank you so much. Absolutely, really appreciate it, Rashani. And once again, hop in the Discord, guys. Tell us all about things. Oh my, Rashani will be there to talk about one shots. Want to know what you're building, and I really happy gaming, y'all.